show for main engine, start.
From the trenches of motorsports and Gearhead Central, this is RealTuners Radio, your all-motor, boosted, and nitrous-fed hour of power. Now, here's your hosts, the Reverends of RPM, the faction of traction, John Bewley, Scott Clark, Bill Fowler, Scott Evans, Mark Dahlquist, Mike Perduto, James Short, Tom Sewell, Brian Barnhill. This is RealTuners Radio.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back. It is Wednesday, February 10th, 2021. RealTuners Radio. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Got a last-minute surprise guest tonight, and he's this is his second time on the show, and always, obviously one of the top downloaded podcasts. I think top 5 he's hovering around there with Big Chief and Jeff Stacy and some of those other guys. But anyway, so very cool to have Shannon Davis back tonight. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. The weather is super crappy here in the lower Midwest. I know it's kind of crappy everywhere else, but let me bring in the rest of the guys. And how do I, hold on, still learning the new program. Okay, I'm going to ask everybody to unmute. I guess that's how we do it now. There we go. Everybody join in.
It asks me if I would like to be unmuted now.
That's weird. Sorry. We're saving like $60 a month by going with Zoom. So Ring Central was putting it to us for like 3 years. But anyway, so Mr. Davis, welcome. Thank you for coming back, man.
Yeah, man, glad to be back. Got
Yeah.
some new stuff.
Yeah, that's what we kind of wanted to get right on was I saw a firmware update for VPS that, you know, it looked like it enhanced the virtual time slip a great deal. I saw back splits on there. I see all the incrementals on there that everybody wants. What was changed or what's new?
Well, we did. So what we originally had was, you know, your 60 foot and your 330 and your 660 with your 330 and 660 splits. And then we had the mile an hour ET. And then we did something a little bit different that's informative if you know what it is. And that was the speed at 660. And by the way, you can also pick 1320. We might add 1,000 foot, but so far NHRA hadn't called me and asked me to do that.
Right.
So, so we added to that a 30 foot incremental and a 200 foot incremental. So, you know, I'm not a tuner, but I can kind of see where, hey, we did this converter change and the 60 didn't get any better. But if you looked, and nobody's going to look unless it's just presented to you, you find out the 30 to 60 was way better.
Right.
30 foot sucked. Maybe we can just leave 100 RPM harder.
Right.
So threw that in there. And then just since there's no updates in the manual yet, some other things that have been added prior to this little announcement was we did VRT, vehicle reaction time. So that's presented up in the top right. That's the time from when you turned off the electricity of the trans brake button, when you let go of the button until the car moves 3 inches. So kind of the first hit of G, but we went for 3 inches. And I've already had guys say, look, mine was always in like 30 something. And now all of a sudden it's 90. Well, something's going on with your valve body or your solenoid or your brakes are sticking or something, you know, that's not letting it move. So
no, that makes a lot of sense. Plus, if you put it out in front of them, they're going to look at it, right?
It's, you know, that's what I see. Cause it's like, you know, there's stuff out there, different fuel injection systems and all that have some of the stuff in them that's trying to show you the distance traveled and whatnot. You should be able to go along and see what time was it at 30
Yeah,
feet?
but you're going to have to scroll through a log and you're going to have to add markers, and some of them don't have that. Right. And getting your incrementals out of a log where you just plot distance is tough, especially however you're plotting it. I mean, I take it you're not GPS, which is kind of slow, I'm guessing.
No, we're not GPS. This is all done off the accelerometer. So let me back up. So what we added to it was the 30 and the 200. And then I think this goes without saying, but I'll say it. You get the incremental from the 0 to 60. Well, you get the 60 foot time. You get the incremental from 60 to 200 and 60 to 330. not the incremental from 200 to 330, right? So you got the incremental you're used to looking at, 60 to 330, plus you get the incremental 60 to 200. Another feature that a lot of people don't understand what's in there, we have the mile per hour as the track would give you, which I forgot now. Is it the last 60 feet?
Right. Yeah. It's the whatever the end of the sampling distance is, right?
It's the last two sets of cones. I think it's 60 feet. I forgot. When we did it, we looked it up. But we give you that, and we give you the speed at 660 feet. So then you can kind of see that, hey, if I'm on the power all the way through to the end, that's usually 3-4 mile an hour faster on my car.
That's a good indicator of if it's nosing over or not.
If it's nosing over, or if you were already out of it, it's like, dude, you either out of it or it's going sick, because our time slip mile per hour is the same speed as our mile per hour at 660 feet. And usually it's a couple mile an hour faster. So, the average is a little slower than the peak speed at 660. So that's in there. Like I said, you can pick your distance. And then all of this, it's kind of funny. We did the VPS because I needed a better G meter for profiler. So the age old question of profiler with chicken and the egg. So I've got this profiler, or pick your ARC module.
Man, it is so hard to get just a random third party G meter, no matter how much you spend, to be consistent from install to install. I've had ones that I thought worked great, and then I opened my mouth and told people how kick ass this setup was, and then it didn't work for anybody else. Sorry, I just go on. Tell us more. But
so on that, the whole VPS project started out in search of a better G meter, because you're trying to answer this question. Okay, car's going down, drive shaft goes up, drive shaft hits plot, pulls timing, slows the car down. Well, was it spinning? Well, I don't know if it was spinning. Well, was the drive shaft spiking? Well, not really. A little bit, maybe. What was the G meter doing? You really couldn't tell. They're all so smoothed and averaged and filtered. So, ideally we're going to be able to look at it, or we know we can now. We've had it out for a couple of years. It's recorded right in the profiler at 400 samples a second. So now we can see that, hey, look, the drive shaft spike, the G meter fell, it was spinning. Or no, it hit the plot, pulled timing, the G meter fell. But before that, the drive shaft looked good and the G meter looked good. It only pulled timing at low speed because it hit the plot that we had too low. So that's where it all started. Well, we start seeing our G meter results, and we're questioning, are they right? They seem a lot more detailed. The closest to what we use for a benchmark was RacePack.
Hold on a second. Well, okay, yeah, I had a question about that. So 400 samples per second, what is that? Is your all the math and stuff you guys are doing? Because there's obviously a shit ton of, proprietary math going on or something, as far as I can tell.
The profiler's recording it at 400 samples a second.
Okay.
On the profiler. So you hook a VPS up to your profiler, you get the G meter in the profiler so that we can figure out, was it losing G before it hit the profile?
Which should be noted, that's a faster sample rate by 25% than all the popular ECUs out there. So this stuff is obviously important to get at a high sample rate, I guess.
The drive shaft speed, because I'm looking for those tiny little changes. Well, when comparing the VPS G meter to like the RacePack, which we found to be the most consistent, obviously the industry standard, right? Yes. But we're looking at,
I don't know, man. You guys are kind of the gold standard now lately. Is this kind of things are turning.
We'll go gold standard, but platinum standard. But what we were seeing then was like, okay, ours has a bunch of dips that the RacePack doesn't show. Well, who's right? And we're looking at other G meters, Fuel Tech and Holly. Everybody's got different G meters. We're trying to go with different cars, put them in there, look at them. They're all about the same, but we just kept noticing fairly consistent differences with the VPS that we weren't seeing in these other systems. And we're sort of already starting to figure out that the RacePack does a little bit of filtering and averaging. It's a really good G meter, but it doesn't show sudden abrupt losses in G, which is the most important thing there is to a traction control guy. The sudden loss in G is probably tire slip.
They're smoothing it.
So, a little bit of smoothing, and just, it's different when you take and you have an electronic product and you just stick an accelerometer on the board. You got to do some smoothing, some math, some filtering, some averaging to get something that's usable.
Right.
So we're doing all this. We noticed we already kind of had the predisposed notion that the race pack glosses over sudden losses. It's a little better at catching sudden increases. So anyway, I'm on the phone with my engineer who's like, freaking math wizard, PhD. And I'm like, didn't you tell me one time it's real simple to give me basically a time slip? Yeah, it's pretty easy. Said like easy, like, can you get it done in the next hour? And yeah, we can do that.
Oh, I'm an ex-IT guy. We hate that shit. But go ahead.
So first I sent him a data run file, the CSV file out of the thing. He ran the numbers and said that should have been I got to make up numbers. I don't remember. That should have been a 422 at 178. Holy shit. It was a 422 at 178 on the time slip. Testing with Brooder. Brooder's my test pig. So it's like, well, that's pretty close. I sent in the same run's race pack data, which is only sampled at 100 samples a second, same run. Well, it run like a 398. Nick wished he ran a 398, or maybe he doesn't. John Sears may not have that much lead on hand, but it was like, well, that's pretty close for the first try. So we started doing it. It became a way for me to prove that our G meter was right. But it's actually what put VPS on the map. Everybody wants this time slip. So we did the time slip. We've sold a lot of VPSs. And we, now it's starting to become known to people that, hey, this is a pretty freaking cool data piece. So it's getting more and more popular on data. We've got our CAN sort of lined out. We've got a little protocol sheet we can send out to people. So like last week at Bradenton, and I apologize, I didn't realize that was you with that guy. Last week at Bradenton, Chris Delgado's working on the little white rice car that Dewey Ball.
Oh yeah, we know Chris. He's been on here a number of times. Yeah.
So Chris calls me like Friday night, says, hey, I want to work on this CAN. And okay, well, send me that sheet. So I send the sheet and we discuss on the phone for a minute. And then Saturday morning, he says, I got everything working, but this, and this. So we get this and working. I said, well, look, why don't you send me the trans brake signal out of the Motec and the arming switch at like 80% throttle. So he mimicked our CAN addresses or whatever you call them, protocol, commands, whatever, out of the Motec. Say, hey, here's a Davis trans brake, here's Davis arm. So we go down to Bradenton, he's got everything coming out of the VPS via CAN into the Motec. So his installs now power, ground, and 2 CAN wires.
Right.
He's got everything it's got to tell him, which is GX, GY, GZ, pitch, roll, yaw.
Yeah.
Pitch rate, yaw rate.
Yep. I did an install on
rate.
Holly just a couple of weeks ago. I finally used a VPS myself with CAN, and it was, it had the analog outs as an option. Have you guys done some testing with the Holly? We did a little bit of testing, and I was surprised how fast.
With the Holly, we're still having to do the analog outs.
Okay.
Because Holly's got to get our CAN protocol read in. Like Chris had to make the Motec listen to what we're sending.
Do they not? Are they working on that for you? Because they've reserved a spot. I've noticed that's in there. If you look in their drop-down menus,
they're working on it. They're trying, I think, basically without speaking out of turn, because I'm not a Holly engineer. They're working on getting all the CAN kind of universal, and
Sorted
cleaned
out.
up. And hey, here's the Holly Performance Products Group, which is now massive. Here's our CAN standards that we got to do. So they're working on that. I think they're motivated to get it done. It's just a big project because they got to make sure it works with everything else. They can't just change their CAN.
Got to be backwards compatible with all the stuff they have out there too, right?
That's
now,
what they got. That's where the can of worms gets.
Yeah.
Deep. So they're working on it. We had a guy with the Max ECU. He got everything working like one Saturday morning.
Yeah, those guys are quick on firmware. The Max guys, they have done stuff for a number of our customers. That's a good little box. We like it.
Yeah, and he, I think I had a Megasquirt guy get decent limited
Yep.
functionality. Like you got the G and pitch and roll and all the basic stuff.
Are you supporting 1 megabit CAN?
We have megabit CAN
29-bit?
20. You can pick 29-bit
Yeah.
address.
So
I'm not the CAN engineer.
no,
but you
that's
can
okay. But
select.
I'm very familiar with the Megasport guys. I've worked with their CAN implementation for years, and it's actually they were early 29-bit 100 or 1 megabit adopters, and everybody kind of gave them shit because a lot of dashes didn't work with that
Didn't
at
do it,
all.
right.
But it actually is fast. It hauls ass.
We can do megabit. I'd have to look at the screen here. Hang on. Settings. CAN settings. We can do megabit, 500K, 250K, or 125K.
125. Yep, that covers them all. That's all of them.
125 works in a case where, and guys, hey, we weren't planning on CAN when we did this.
Sure.
I just said, hey, let's put CAN on the board and we'll figure it out. So we did that. So we have a few limitations. We can send out a frame of 4 data channels.
Yep.
At 100 hertz. CAN. Okay. We can send out frame 1, our standard frame, which is pitch. I'm sorry, it's GX, pitch, smart drop, and timing. Okay. So if you have a wheelie control built in your VPS, we can send that data to our systems, to a Holly, to a Fuel Tech, whatever. We can do a second frame, which is a custom frame. You can pick any of the data you want, put 4 parameters in that frame. You can pick to send out both frames, but it's going to be at 50 hertz a frame. So it's toggling frame 1, frame 2, frame 1, frame 2 at 100 hertz. Chris played with all that. When he did that and got all 8 channels coming out over CAN, it was slightly slower than the analog.
Yeah.
But it was certainly.
But listen, man,
usable.
that's not a slow that's not a slow sample rate. All things can, or a transmit rate. All things
it's
considered.
still plenty fast for most of this data. So what he decided, look, if I'm doing something like pitch for wheelie control in the Motec, I'll just go ahead and bring it analog at, I don't know, I can't remember what we're putting out analog. It's 1024 or something. It's analog's hauling ass.
Yeah.
Because they'll bring that in analog. He was reading it in, I think, at 400, 800 hertz, and did his own wheelie control strategy in the table. So anyway, that's coming along. I think more and more of the EFI manufacturers will hopefully. We try to do a pretty standardized CAN system. Like on the CAN settings, you can pick.
I think it's good that you're doing it first. I think CAN is going to be where it's at, especially in this upcoming. These things.
Well, it's so much easier than let me run all these analog wires.
Yeah.
So,
2 wires, good to go. That's awesome.
So it's what we just added was, just a few months ago we threw in that VRT, the vehicle reaction time, kind of unannounced. It's just there, and then we added limits and triggers. So limits and triggers is a sensitive subject from the manufacturer standpoint, but I'll have to say, Bradenton had a very unfortunate incident. I've watched 2 other racing buddies die. And, my friend Tommy Gray got knocked slam out, not, just last year. Plenty of others did. So, watching Tommy go out there and, he got loose, smacked the wall, and then he just hits the other wall pretty hard, and he kind of medium speed rolls and hits the wall again. And then if I remember, we're watching him just go along at like 5 miles an hour, heading to the wall with the only clean corner left on the car. And he's not slowing down. He's not steering. He's obviously knocked out, or at least days beyond ability to control the car, right? Thank God it wasn't wide open throttle. It's a blown Pro Mod. It's going to get exciting real quick if that unconscious leg hits the gas pedal. So that was kind of, my final straw. We got to working on it already. And then the stuff that went on at Bradenton was like, okay, it's time to put this stuff out there. It's in a bit of the experimental stage, but I've played with it a lot. We ran it on white rice because there's one part of it that you'll understand that I thought was the trickiest. But anyway, limits and triggers is all of these things we're measuring. You can set a limit and you can set a trigger. And what you as the tuner do with that is up to you. I'm not guaranteeing you can't crash your car, or that I ain't telling you that because this happened, you should shut the motor off. Because, like I talked to Kai about it, Kai Kelly, and I said, look, your car's all squirrely, left, right. I'm assuming you don't want to shut the motor off. He's like, not unless you want to see me crash. Because if you shut it off, it's going to get a lot of rear drag and it's probably going to get squirrelier. Did I lose you all? Scott, I think you're muted.
Nope.
Sorry, I was muted. My bad. So no.
Just listening.
I had a no. We've recommended that a ton of times. I've had a couple experiences where, man, there's certain situations where the chassis is not like sorted out as it's going down the track, and the driver still needs to be able to throttle it back in place, even if it lost the oil pressure or whatever.
Right.
So maybe just a big idiot light is better in some cases, but I mean, in other cases, the NHRA chose to do some stuff. So I mean, it's not what you're doing.
So what we've done is it's up at the tuner's user's discretion. You can set limits on G plus or minus GX, GY, GZ, pitch, roll, and yaw rate, pitch rate, yaw rate, roll rate, distance traveled, time traveled. There's another couple. There's velocity. I don't really know why you'd use it, but I don't want to go 200 miles an hour. So you set those up at your discretion, and you can say, look, if I think it's fair to say if you've probably got +1 or -1 lateral G, there's a problem. Let's set off limit trigger 1. There's limit trigger 1, 2, or both. So 1 could be shoots, 2 could be a rev limit or engine kill. If it's one of our products, you might go to smart drop level 6, 7, or 8, just run the thing on 1 or 2 cylinders. You can drop the shoots. It's up to you to do what you want. You have 2 triggers. So you can assign any of the analog outputs to be a trigger, or you can assign, there's a blue wire that up till now no one's used, the general purpose output wire. And you can use that to set off a trigger. One of the cooler things we did, or at least I think it's cool, is like yaw's a tricky one. 15 degrees of yaw is probably a problem. Okay. But I'm not saying a driver couldn't see 15 degrees of yaw and recover from that.
Right.
50 degrees of yaw is a problem. Okay. Where do you set your limit? Well, then you have yaw rate. Okay. 100 degrees a second. That's probably a pretty exciting broken axle. Right. But 20 degrees a second. But even with that, 2 degrees of yaw is eventually going to be a problem. So we also have the one that I was most worried about working properly was lateral distance traveled. So we can log that you've moved 1 foot, 2 foot, 3 foot, 4 foot, 5 foot, 6 foot to the left or to the right. You can tell it when you're in the trailer and you're sane. You can say, if my car goes 8 feet either way, I want to do something. I personally, and I'm not a driver, I personally don't think it's your right to go into the other guy's lane. You should treat that center line as a wall. But because that guy's got kids and family too. But in the heat of battle, and sometimes it may be, well, yeah, but if I didn't use his lane safely because he's already passed me, I would have crashed. But he was gone. I used his lane. Okay, that's fine. I don't see where that being hurt because the chutes are already out. And then you get into things like, hey, at 670 feet, pull the chutes if the driver hadn't already done so. Just in case you have a situation of unconscious driver or equipment malfunction, whatever, maybe this will throw the chutes out and help the situation. So that's kind of what we did new.
That's awesome. Okay, that's interesting. And are those like hardware level outputs, those triggers? I mean, are they? I take it they're super fast, right? That's what you.
Yeah, they're very quick.
Yeah.
There's one GPO, a blue wire. Anybody's got a VPS, it's one that's twisted, and that's
with your general purpose output, right? Is that
general purpose output?
Okay.
And it's it can be, you can invert it, so it can be positive and go to ground, or it can be at ground and go to positive. It's, I think, 50 milliamp output, source or sync to an op amp. So it'll drive a relay, it'll trigger an ECU, no problem. So you go into your Holley, go into your fuel tech. I'm assuming
it's an op amp, so it doesn't really matter how much current it's drawn. It could be used as like an analog input could read it too.
Yeah. Right. And then you can assign any of the analog outputs to become a trigger, and it can be inverted. It's going to be 0 to 5 volt. The blue wire, by the way, 0 to 12, or battery voltage. And analogs are 0 to 5. But again, you could drive a Holley input pin or a Fuel Tech input pin and say, hey, if this input pin comes on, I want to do X.
Sure.
So, it was kind of funny. We were talking about things at Bradenton, and, I made the comment, it's unfortunate because probably every car down here has a device in it that has a timer. Your 7531 had a timer.
Right.
The Grid has a timer. I'm sure the Holley and Fuel Techs have timers.
Oh, yeah.
And the overwhelming answer was nobody uses them because what if you get into a pedal fest and you win a pro mod race with a 6-second pass? Yeah, that does happen occasionally. But when you mentioned that we can trigger this off feet traveled, someone please give me a good reason not to throw the chutes at 665, 670 feet.
How does it know that you're that far off linear course, though? How does it know what direction you're trying to go? How does it know what a straight line is?
Well, it zeroes when you hit the trans brake. So let's assume our drag race is straight from there.
Oh, so it's taking linear acceleration from there. Okay.
So
Yep.
if you were to line up pointing left, well, it's going to read that left as a straight line. So when you steer it back right, you could get a false trigger. So again, that's why it's going to be up to the users to say, all right, I don't like the linear travel, the lateral travel. I'm not going to use it. I'm going to use.
Don't let your
1G
drunk
side
cousin
load.
line you up in the. Yeah,
And
sorry,
I
go
think
ahead.
in reality, though, if you had, I think we were looking at Bradenton, and we were guessing. I never went and walked it off. I was guessing Bradenton was 35 foot wide each lane. Maybe Victor, somebody's listening, they can let us know. And I think Bradenton might be one of the wider tracks. I don't know. I haven't paid that much attention. Maybe there's a standard. Maybe every track's 40 foot a lane. I don't know. But if you say, hey, look, my car goes 10 feet one way or the other, there's a problem. And if you don't want to use it, don't use that. Use, hey, if I get 1G a side load, there's a problem. If I got 10 degrees of body roll, there's a problem. If I've seen 5 Gs either direction, there's been a problem. So, and like I say, Tommy didn't even hit that hard. Well, I'm sure it felt hard to him, but his wasn't like a nose in crash. It just turned and he kind of pancaked the wall pretty hard. And I think his head hit I'm guessing his head hit the cage and knocked him out or dazed him anyway. I think we've had 1 or 2 instances in history where we've had a driver has suffered some medical problem during a pass, a stroke, or
It's happened. Yeah, I've been at the track a couple times.
so-
That's happened.
on the distance travel thing. Okay, if you want to argue with me that dropping the chutes for the driver at 650 feet is too much Mr. Roboto driving the car, fine. Explain to me why we can't drop them at 670 feet.
Honestly, man, if I was the NHRA, I would be using that and I would just be logging with it and seeing where the right limits are and seeing if it's a consistent behavior. I hope they're doing that because that has the potential to be kind of a groundbreaker as far as safety. And they're already using transponders on
And
the pro
stuff.
stock cars. I've worked on some pro stock cars that we had to run the transponders, and I remember them accidentally setting one off in the pits at Bristol. Just the radio method I don't think was nearly as good as if you can track it. I guess
Well, tracking the
inertially.
distance, the first question is always, are you sure the distance is right? Yeah, the time slips wouldn't be within 100.
I was going to say,
Well-
you obviously know from the time slips being so accurate that you're nailing the distance over time, and you're deriving that from acceleration. So you're doing calculus backwards the whole time. That's awesome.
Why not just set it at 700 feet and use it as a backup? So
Fine.
you know you're way past it. I mean, an extra 40 feet's only like a tenth of a second, or a
Next
couple
chance I
hundredths of
get,
a second. You
I'm
know what I
gonna
mean?
play with this.
And make it a little longer so the chute's
log it.
guaranteed to come out no matter what. You
Right.
know,
Let's
I
say
mean,
you have a
if you're-
driver you got a driver that's incapacitated for some reason. I think I may be out of turn here. Maybe Lyle's listening. He can phone a friend. I think like in Lyle's fire, I'm sure he was engulfed in flames to where he's not seeing anything in the car.
No,
And
Tell me
certainly
where
he had his
700
eyes-
feet is.
Hopefully he had his eyes closed because I think that's natural instinct when your eyeballs are burning, you're going to close your eyes.
Right.
So in that case, you just need to know your cockpit. You need to know where to turn this stuff off. But in the event that it doesn't, you've had some freak episode to something doesn't work, maybe this will help. You know, I'm the opinion it can't help. I'm not trying to come up with something that anybody mandates. Everybody's got to go spend $1,000.
But it would be
You know,
nice and it would help. But no,
But if
for
they've
real,
already got
I
it-
mean, I hope they're experimenting with. If somebody's listening, some of you NHRA or class guys, you need to check into this, because at the very least, you should have this on some cars and get this stamped in a data log.
You know,
Right?
there's
Maybe no
already,
take action, but you should damn well be logging this to see if it's something that develops a pattern that you can use.
I mean,
Scott,
right
you
now
know, there's
there's
a whole
they're
set of
close to
safeties. A funny car.
what's that?
Yeah, I know,
There's
I
also-
understand, but
Yeah,
there's
I mean,
positional
that stuff
safety
is out there and
Yeah.
already, done in a particular way for that class.
But it's
transponder
only at the
based.
elite levels. I'm talking about, let's talk about no prep where there's
Yeah.
nothing. So at least now, hey, this thing done spun around, it's coming back at us.
Right.
I believe somewhere there it crossed several rules. It's either hit something, it's broken the roll limit, it's certainly broken the yaw limit if it's coming backwards. There's a lot of things that could be done for. And again, we're not trying to do something like, oh, everybody's got to mandate this, everybody's got to give Davis money.
No.
There's about 1,000 VPSs already out there. This is a free update. I've jokingly said, if your wife knows this exists, you're going to be buying one. I'd love to find one of our, I've worked closely with Holly. Hey, if they call me up and say, look, we want to try to do one of these at a much better price point, and maybe it's not even data. It's just this limiting device. You can't get anything out of it. It's not a performance enhancer in any way. And maybe you get it down where it's half the price.
And it's just got a cut wire to engage a relay or something for
And then
whatever
what
reason.
you do, like I said, the way we're leaving it is, here's the limits. They're very, very flexible. You got 2 triggers you can pick, which you can fire 1 trigger, 2 triggers, or both triggers, right? Or 1 trigger, number 1, number 2, or both. You decide what you want to do with them. Maybe you feel like, hey, it's already seen in excess of 5 Gs. Then I definitely want to shut my shit off and pull the chutes.
Right.
Because
yeah.
if this car's seen 5 Gs in any direction, I've done wrecked.
Things are bad. Let's get them all shut down.
Yeah, or I jokingly always tell people, if you got 5 degrees of body roll across the width of your car, that's about 8 inches, roughly.
That's starting to get sketchy.
You got a problem. You got air under the back tires. You got a problem. Let's go ahead and drop the laundry. Don't want to shut the car off because that may make it more unstable. But let's drop the laundry. So anyway, that's the new add-on stuff we did. Say it's a free update. It's listed as experimental. I've played with it an awful lot. The lateral distance was the one I was the most skeptical of it, tracking the full 660 feet. I think Chris and Eric Leferio and White Rice can attest that it works as good on White Rice as it did in my Dodge pickup.
I'm curious. On the website, it lists VPS, like $800 to $3,000. So there's obviously different versions in there. Can you explain what the different versions are so people know what they want? I actually had a discussion with a buddy of mine about this the other day, and we were arguing what came with what, or if it needed a profiler. Can you explain what you have and what the price points are on those?
So the VPS is $799, but most people you're going to need a screen. Okay, so that's $999 with a screen. If you have a profiler, or if you already have a profiler EFI or one of our ignition modules or TC3, TC3SL, TC3SL Pro, you've already got a screen, so you don't need to buy another screen. Like I said, if you have the big profiler, the built-in screen, you don't need another screen. So it's $799 for the bare profiler, $999 with a screen.
And that just does your basic position and GPS, right? It doesn't do any traction control, anything else?
Nothing like that. That's your data, your time slip, these safety features, these limits and triggers, and then you can add to that our wheelie control strategy. So what that means is you give me another $699 because this is a performance tool. And at this point, you spent a whopping, I say that sarcastically, $1,700 for a wheelie control that works really well.
So like half the price of one wheel that these fuckers run. Sorry, go ahead.
It's, you start comparing this to the some of the optical sensors out there and then creating your own strategy, or just one wheelie is going to cost you $3,000, one good one, easy, if you get to finish the weekend. So $1,700, you've got a wheelie control that works very nicely. In that strategy of ours, you can go in and set an angle at which you want it to start retarding, a rate of which it's going to retard timing, a max retard, a start time for all this to happen in case your car pulls a little wheelie on the line and then settles down. And that's normal. And you don't want it to wheelie on the 5th kit, you know. Then you've got a smart drop level, a smart drop angle. Hey, if I get to 9 degrees of angle, start dropping cylinders, and then a max level of how many cylinders you're going to drop. You can even you can set an option for, this is confusing. I don't want to do smart drop because I'm nitrous, but I do want to send my profiler a signal that makes my profiler think I pedaled. And then I'm going to use that to trigger my events to think I've pedaled and turn off the 5th kit and undo the lockup. Okay. So you can get pretty complex. That's our strategy. You can not pay that $6.99. You can get a VPS. You've got the pitch data. You plumb that pitch data via analog into your Holly, let's say, and you go and build your own advanced table to create your own wheelie control strategy. That's free. If you can't do it, go watch some of Devin Vanderhult's videos. He's done several videos on the wheelie control strategies, this, that, and the other. Go do that. Go do your own. More power to you. Don't call me on how to set it up. I don't fucking know. But watch Devin's videos and go work on it. And if you get frustrated with working on it and decide I'm just going to pay Davis, then here we are. Pick up the phone. We can turn that on online through the licensing. The other add-on is the self-learning traction control. So it's virtually the same as a TC3 SL, which costs $19.99. We add that firmware, that strategy into the VPS, all the same controls for $1,500, $1,499. So it's $500 cheaper. It's self-learning. It's built in there. It's what you got. The biggest difference is you don't get the software interface of Profiler and the downloads and all to download it. And you cannot expand it to a TC3 SL Pro or Profiler EFI later. So I tell guys every day, look, if you've got a fairly serious race program and you think it's going to grow, spend the extra $500, get the separate TC3 because it's way more expandable. It can grow with your program. If we put it in your VPS, that's what it is. But for that, let's say where it came from is I had an older gentleman call me and he literally was like, I think he was 82. And the year before, his high school dream car that he still owns and still races, out of the blue, stood up on him, scared him, dropped it, busted the pan, got in his oil, and skinned it. He didn't crash it. He said he skinned it up. And he wouldn't have cared if it was $10,000. He wanted traction control. He wanted wheelie control. Well, talking with the gentleman.
Sorry, I couldn't hear what you said.
Shut up. My watch is telling me it doesn't understand what I'm saying. A profiler wasn't for him. He doesn't even use a laptop to tune his car. So we put the self-learning strategy in the VPS. We've sold about 10 of them that way. It's kind of a handy way to do it, but it's not for the guy that's going to the track, make a run, download the data, try to go faster. It's more for the guy that, hey, I want a wheelie control. I want some traction control. I want to put it in. I want to set it up. I want to mess with it at one race, test and tune, and I want to be done with it. It's just there. Then it's great for that. So.
Okay, so you can get the traction control and you don't have to buy a profiler. That was the argument that I had with the friend. I was like, I don't think you need to buy a profiler. He's like, no, you need to buy a profiler. So.
And then there's the whole TC3 line, which, to discredit some of the rumors, and I appreciate Daddy Dave to death 15 years ago. I got a $10,000 box, says this thing go down a dirt road. There's never been a $10,000 profiler sold, but maybe his was he's probably signed it. So there you go. But you can get a TC3, which is a really nice traction control for $9.99. You will need a screen for $200, so $1,200. You will need a ring and sensor from somewhere. Ours is $350. You're in for $1,550 for our entry level traction control. That could be upgraded to a TC3 SL for $2,000 total. That could be upgraded to a TC3 SL Pro for $2,495. That can be upgraded to a profiler with self-learning if you want. And you spent a grand total of 3,500 and you didn't waste any money along the way. If you spent 1,000 and you want to go to 3,500, you owe me 2,500 bucks. So we do it where you can do incremental upgrades without losing or wasting money, without mailing shit back and forth, without rewiring the car. So, if you go from one unit to the next, it's the same unit. I don't even need to see it back. We can do all this with online licensing, which some people get mad at.
Not bad.
So,
And I can attest to that. I've had Shannon, when I was up at Hardway, randomly log into one of his smart, I don't know if we'll call it smart relay or whatever the box, change firmware in it, literally while we're sitting in the shop drinking a beer, and 5 minutes later, everything works.
got new features. I remember Ryan called me. He's like, this ain't working right. This ain't doing what I need it to do. It's like, well,
It was probably Ryan, but that's a whole other argument.
let's write a little code here right quick and see if this does it. So,
That's outstanding.
well, good thing about small companies, we're nimble.
Yeah. Are you guys able to plot basically? I mean, I guess you could almost plot like a position on course, like some of the road race guys do, or something like that. I was just curious.
We're not anywhere near doing that. I mean, I've actually thought about that, but the way our yaw sensor works is when it comes around to 360, it starts back at 0.
Mm-hmm.
So then it would get lost. If you were drifting, it's going to be, I don't know what the hell it would plot out.
Sure.
Because it's going to go from full
It
yaw
would have to be
yaw.
doing GPS coordinates at that point.
At that point, you get either that or we have to do some more advanced stuff to clock the fact that.
Did you guys ever
180 minus
experiment?
180?
Do
What's
you
that?
have GPS? Do
No,
you have
GPS
GPS
sucks.
in your stuff?
GPS sucks.
Yeah.
Just driving down. GPS can barely get my dumb ass to South Georgia. So
Right. Way too slow, right? Is my guess.
I'm not a GPS expert.
Yeah.
Here's my redneck engineering take on it. There's a company called Race Logic in the UK.
Yep, we know who they are.
Race Logic does the V boxes, the video V boxes, all that. Race Logic started out doing traction control. Race Logic then became the gurus of GPS and racing. You know what Race Logic never made? Traction control that tried to use GPS.
Right.
Because-
Right.
And they don't do traction control anymore. But even prior to that, I talked to them at PRI a couple times, and they said no, it's not fast enough. I had a Garmin engineer who was working on a stadium truck that we did some stuff on, and he was hell bent to use GPS, and he had a good reason for it. Okay, and we talked, and I said, "Well, I don't think GPS will work." Before I knew who he was, he finally says, "Look, I've been at Garmin for 15 years. I am kind of a guru." What he wanted to do was use it to track the different surfaces. They were racing like through a stadium on dirt, across the asphalt parking lot, into a gravel parking lot next to that, back onto the asphalt, back across a grass field, back into the stadium. He wanted to use GPS to know where they were on the circuit to change the traction control parameters. To my great delight, he calls me back after the first test and says, "Well, there's no need because the shit works great the way it is." So with the self-learning stuff. So, but he also, after we talked, he said, "Yeah, there's some things you could do with GPS, but you're not going to track where the car is or the speed of the car and look for a sudden change in tire speed, short of I was just going 104 and my tire suddenly jumped up to 120. Maybe you could do that. But the GPS, I mean, you've seen it. When you don't take the exit she told you to take, it shows you taking that exit until you're way past it. And then it finally jumps back to where you're at. So maybe I'm missing it, but I don't think it's, at least the stuff we're allowed to use isn't good enough. And you don't have enough satellites in view to do a real precise job. So I was told, like your Garmin, your fishing deal or your hunting or whatever, yes, it'll pinpoint you down to a foot or two, but it took it 30 seconds to do that by just narrowing in on the pings. It's not going to do that at 40 miles an hour. So anyway, are you there? Uh-oh, I'm all quiet.
Tom has a tendency to leave his microphone on mute while he's talking. I'm watching you talk.
And then I can't find my fucking mouse. Sorry, I'm like scrolling around. Where's my mouse on these 9 screens that Evan's talked me into setting up? Just kidding.
My new mic has a little button on the very front of it in the top that blinks when it's on mute. So I always can find it right away. I love it for that very reason. Shannon, there was a question earlier from a few of the people wondering about, is there any reason this wouldn't work in a land speed racing type deal with a half-mile course or a 1 mile course?
Yes, Rick Lind is asking. I'm glad because he's one of the fastest cars out there at a 240, 245 mile an hour.
I'd want to talk to him, and I definitely have to make a phone call to Shane T about what am I not catching. For data, there's no reason whatsoever it wouldn't work. For things like a time slip, we'd have to do some reprogramming.
We don't care about a time slip. He's looking for safety. You know, hey, just make sure this thing shuts off at the end.
I think it could be so like that lateral distance travel. I thought about this on the land speed stuff.
That's another one.
What I was nervous about was, okay, are we really going to be able to measure this yaw and this lateral acceleration and calculate where this freaking car is over the course of this 600 or 700 feet? So my testing was, yeah, we can. My testing's in a Dodge pickup or a Lotus Esprit over here at an industrial park behind the post office where I fly helicopters. It's like, damn, it seems to work. So then we put it on white rice and they warn me right up front. Well, the car goes pretty dead straight until I get out of the power, and then it's going to go right a couple feet. Okay. Well, the first pass, we did that. I was a little too far off to one side on my video to do a good job of telling, did it move a foot here, a foot there? We download it. It was pretty dead straight. And then at the end, it went to the right a little bit. Like, well, damn, that looks pretty good. The next run, I lined up parallel with the side of the car, looking right down the side of the fenders. And he definitely went to the left 2 or 3 feet. And he definitely went to the right several feet at the end. And some wiggling in the middle. And the data showed it. Our data showed it. It's like, this thing's working pretty damn good. I don't know. I can't say that it's going to keep track of that over a 4 or 5 minute run. But we can sure find out. So I think we can, and then we can certainly do the yaw stuff, any kind of a side load, side G. I don't know with the data that Shane T would have on a land speed car, I'm sure we can easily say, hey, as soon as it sees negative G and he hadn't pulled the chutes, there's a problem. Something's wrong. I'm just guessing that if I'm in a land speed car and it's not making positive G, something's not going to plan. The chutes ought to be on the way out. So
I'm being asked in a back chat if it can be, and I told him, of course it can, but if it can be programmed to not deploy if you're under, say, 150 mile an hour or something along those lines.
I don't know if we could back into that, but right now that's not in the works. And I get that. That's why when we talk about like shutting the motors off, it's like, I like the idea of a 2000 or 1500 RPM rev limiter, because the track promoter is going to get real mad pushing every car off the track that got a little squirrely, and shut the motor off. So I think there you want to, drop it down to a rev limit. Somebody pointed out about shutting motors off. I'm not a motor builder. I kind of see their point. You got a $100,000 Proline twin turbo at full song, gets a little squirrely. You probably don't want to shut it off and just stop the oil to those turbos.
Look,
that probably makes some
sense. If you're bringing the input into an ECU, you can let the ECU do the other logic.
Do all the logic.
It's like, hey, the
right.
VPS said to shoot this out, but my ECU says I'm going too slow, or I've got an override button, or whatever.
Yes.
We're just going to give you the data, but this keeps you from going into your advanced tables or whatever you're allowed to do in your ECU and trying to set all these limits up. We give you the limits. We turn on the trigger, run that into your ECU. Right. I know with like a Holly, you could easily tell it, okay, trigger's on, but I'm under 150. Don't bother with the chutes. So that's all. Like I say, all that's up to the end users. That's where leave it for the crews to get creative.
Shannon, not everybody on this show tonight heard your last one. So while this will be repetitive for some of the folks that are on here, would you mind just stepping back a second and talk about what the product set you're describing is, and then how these new features and capabilities sit within that, just so everybody has the full picture?
You mean just general what VPS is?
Yeah. Mhm.
I don't know if y'all can see me here, or can you, Scott? Can I be broadcast? Is this a video thing or just a chat?
No,
It's a video
everybody's-
thing.
Everybody
You're
is
on,
seeing,
brother.
holding it up right now.
Okay.
Yep.
So VPS is this gadget here, right? Vehicle. The hell happened? Oh, vehicle position sensor. It's multiple gyros, multiple accelerometers, multiple magnetometers. That's given us what is proven for the last 2 years to be a very, very accurate picture of where your car is in 3D space, and fairly impervious to tire shake, to a lot of all the race car vibrations. I got these in most of the pro mods I mess with. You know, it was not easy. You know, frustratingly, I'll get some, internet guru on Facebook tell me all I got to do is go to Spark Fund and get an IMU and I can build my own for $15. Good thing you live in America, buddy. Have the fuck at it. You know, because Nick Bruder can attest to seeing me, probably about $200,000 into this project, finally having enough, throwing one into the lake there behind the trailer at, I think, Cecil County, has a pond out back, and I was done. This fucking thing doesn't work. It's a piece of shit. And that was 2 years and about 200 grand in trying to get it to be where to work in a blown pro mod. I can get excellent results out of Frankie Taylor's car, tire shake, whatever. We're still getting accurate time slips. He's pedaled it 4 times and shook, and we still get a 620 time slip that's accurate. So it's a vehicle position sensor that grew a little bit into spitting out these time slips. By the way, no, it does not have a built-in printer. It puts them out via the handheld or can. So to that, we've added the wheelie control strategy we talked about, and we've added the traction control strategy, but it's a very, very good G meter and X, Y, and Z plus pitch, roll, and yaw. We're now outputting yaw rate, pitch rate, roll rate. So if you decide, hey, I want to do my wheelie control based on how fast it's rising, not how far it's come, then have at it. You know, that's where the crew chief in me says, look, just take your, I'm not sure of all the different capabilities of the different ECUs, but I know like a Holly with the advanced tables, hey, if you want to set up a table for pitch rate, go ahead. You know, if you want to set one up for total pitch, go ahead. So we're just giving you the data. What you do with that data, please let the creative juices flow. You know, it does have built-in data logging. It's not, we're not in the data logger business. It's kind of a necessary evil. Can I share my screen by clicking this share screen button?
It should work. Yeah. Scott muted himself, but it should work.
Host disabled participant screen sharing. Thanks, Scott.
Thanks, Scott. He's muted. He's muted right now.
So we've got
Friction program.
we've got a data system in there, but it's again, we're not trying to be race pack. We ain't trying to be Holly or Fuel Tech as far as data goes. But if you got nothing else, you can download the VPS. It'll record its run length, whatever it was, 7, 8, 9 seconds, and you have all the data in there, or 8 channels of data. So
all right, where do I open this? Sorry.
It says you have
Scott can't read.
Host disabled participant screen sharing.
Hold on, working on it. So let me allow.
Let me see if I even have anything to share.
Why doesn't it let
Here's
you
something.
make host? No, I don't want to make him a host.
Same problem you probably had the last time when I was.
I know. I didn't have time to go fix it. I suck at life. I'm sorry.
All right. Well,
Hold on, I'll get her going here.
we can circle back. We'll circle back to that.
Yes, give me 30
I'll circle back.
Make
So-
a big circle.
Those who know. The Dogecoin. So now I'm getting. What am I getting? Am I getting messages?
Make host. I don't know how to allow you.
Oh, I've been invited to another chat. Is that like piggybacking?
You
I've been
might have been
invited
invited
to another
to the Zoom
podcast.
chat. Scott would have done that. He's the
I
host.
didn't send another invite. No.
No.
Kenny
This is a
Howard's yelling at
different.
you, Scott.
This is a different group wants me to podcast with them. So I don't know if that's piggybacking. That's kind of dirty.
Damn. Where's
Okay, there we
Duck when
go.
We need him.
Now you should be able to do video. Try the share thing.
All right. I want to share. Oh, I get to pick what I want to share. So you don't see all my gay Latino midget porn. Okay. Here's our little data viewer. Again, it's certainly nothing elaborate. What do we got here? Trace list. Distance would be this guy, red. Nope, wrong. It's under my, how do I move you guys? So here's our distance traveled, the yellow line. Here's our velocity. Okay. Turn those off to get them out of the way. Let's look at, there's GX, 1G. So I'm at 1G because I got to just stood up on its butt, right, doing this. And then as it yawed, the blue line, there is the lateral distance traveled. So the little video monitors on top of my data. So as I yawed a little this way, it lateral traveled that way. As I yawed back, it headed back this way. I yawed harder, it went this way. It never really recovered from that because I turned and never really came. I just went straight. I didn't counter back yet. So it continues going, whatever that is, left or right, this way, this way, this way. If I had a limit set right here at 6 feet, it would have deployed the chutes right here. So this is our little data viewer. It's pretty simple. It's not really intended to replace your data viewer, but if you got nothing else on your little no prep car or something, hey, I've got a G meter I can look at now. You know, I've got a pitch meter. If you're doing wheelie control, we can log what was the pitch, what was the retard, what was the cylinder drop. So if you don't have any other way to log it, you at least got that.
I mean, this is all you need right here to get going for sure.
It's built in, it's there, you know, it's accurate. It's not, say we're not trying to be a data logger company.
And I'm being asked again. If I have a Holly on my car and I just want the VPS and the screen, and the ability to do what you did, it's $9.99.
$9.99. And you can create your own, you know, wheelie control through an advanced table. Plenty of videos, plenty of, I think the VPS, there's a little Facebook group there, the VPS tips and tricks. I think there's been some posts on it in there. Yeah, $9.99.
It's not $2,500. You can keep messaging me all you want. It's not $2,500.
No. Well, here, let's try this. Let's see.
Daddy Day said it was 10 grand.
Yeah. His may have been. He probably signed it. It won so many races. Dave was good to me, or is good to me, was good to me. And we, let me find this. All right, VPS. So I'm going to the website. Where is that share button again? Share. There it is. Vehicle position sensor. Share. Here it is. Okay. You drop this down. VPS $7.99. VPS with remote $9.99. VPS with wheelie control strategy built in $14.99. Doesn't include the remote. VPS with wheelie control and remote display. I've done this different now. I did another product with this much and this much.
So that's sorted a lot better than the last time I looked at this now. Now you kind of go through the pyramid.
Yeah. And I did a different product another way. Like I think it was the profiler.
Dude, I like whoever's doing your website. I like that they got your Facebook tags pulled into as posts on your website.
That's my dumb ass too. So
no way.
That's why I don't have a life.
You sell these products to California, Shannon?
Bill's a lawyer, Shannon.
Only with 74 warnings, yeah. So like here, I did a little differently. So if you want to profile with ignition controls, add $349. Profile with self-learning, add $9.99. I think I like this way better than trying to list every combination you could have. So
yeah. No, I like it laid out that way because it's like, all right, here's my cost to go. Here's my next step.
let me throw a shameless plug out here while we're at it. I just did a video last night, I think, on how to update your stuff. That's it's in the blog, it's on Facebook, it's on the support page, updating firmware and software. There's a 6-minute video on how to do this. It's actually pretty simple, but here it is. And also, if you own a TC3, TC3SL, TC3SL Pro, or even a Profiler EFI module, please go to products, drag, traction control, click IDI TC3 because it's the same manual for all. And there are now instructions.
Cool.
Dun, 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 dun. After 2 or 3 years of selling a product with no instructions, there's instructions. So pretty comprehensive. Hopefully this will help answer a lot of questions. Please share with your friends that have TC3s that bitch they never got any instructions. Got that. And we'll be updating the VPS instructions and updating the profiler instructions in the coming weeks. No promises.
I'm being asked for you to talk in all caps, talk about self-learning.
Okay. First, we're going to talk about intellectual property.
Yeah, I want to hear that discussion, man. God, I wasn't sure. I didn't get a chance to ask him beforehand if he'd bring it up, but Shannon's known for his candor, so I'm super curious, as is everyone else out in the internet world.
Did you guys see this new product that came out with? It's called a CPS, a car position sensor.
Yeah, there you go. So it's getting a little. I'm not going to go much into it because obviously, if there's anything legally going on, you can't talk about it. But as it says here, Davis Technologies products are protected by the following patents with others pending. I think there's 12 listed. They're all in the same scope of traction control and vehicle position sensing. This is by Fish and Richardson. Y'all are welcome to go look them up. 1,200 attorneys, largest IP firm in the world, about $50,000 a patent. Take this fairly seriously. Has worked with Davis IP for over a decade, developed this portfolio, and has represented Davis IP and it's defended its patents and trademarks on multiple competitors. Pay attention, world. I've about had enough. So that's all we're going to say for now.
Right on.
But
interesting.
These are not empty patents that I have my local patent attorney and guy that does wills and estate planning down here do. These are real patents. These have been defended. That stuff's not public, as anybody who's been through this shit knows. You settle these things, and part of the settlement is you can't talk about it. So, but we've been very successful in our patent enforcement, and it's coming that time again. But
well,
anyway,
good luck to you, sir, for sure on that stuff, because that's
self-learning. So go to support, go to, and I got to make this better. Go to profiler support videos. Okay. There's one here on self-learning traction control. I should name it self-learning traction control sort of explained. Okay. So I'll give you my normal phone spiel. You can there's traction control that's done by just rates of acceleration. If your car, you let go of the button, let's say you let go of the button at 0 RPM engine speed, or I guess we can use drive shaft speed. 0 RPM drive shaft speed on your drag car. And from now to 7 seconds, you accelerate from 0 to 7,000 RPM. You are roughly gaining 1,000 RPM a second, right? That's if it's a linear acceleration. So you can have a non-self-learning rate of change traction control that just says if my car ever accelerates faster than 1,000 RPM a second, something's wrong. And that's the TC3. That's a non-self-learner rate of change traction control. The self-learning is measuring, because you don't accelerate linearly, I can't say the word, linearly, then it's constantly monitoring the drive shaft, updating every revolution and saying, I'm accelerating this fast, this fast, this fast, this fast, this fast, and it's changing a little bit as I go down the track. But if it suddenly deviates from that learned rate, it's going to kick in. So it's very good at predicting based on very recent history what the drive shaft was doing, what the drive shaft should be doing next. Okay. So non-self-learning works great compared to nothing, and works great on your drag week car that you're driving around at a steady cruise state. If you're going down the road at 55 miles an hour and 3,000 RPM drive shaft speed, the self-learning is not going to be very happy because it's going to learn no acceleration. And every time Tom Bailey touches the throttle, it sees that as a sudden acceleration and tries to correct it. Then you get this herky-jerky, and so you can't use self-learning as you're cruising around, right? It's going to drive you freaking nuts. You got to go to non-self-learning. Non-self-learning, if that's entry level and you got $1,000 to spend because you got your new stimulus check, it's a really nice traction control. It's going to do a great job for you. The Achilles heel to the self-learning is if you get in trouble smoothly. And I can actually, if people are watching this on a video device, I can give an example. But first, I just noticed this. The man, the myth, the legend, Devin Vanderhoof, came by the shop over the fall. It won't go away. Devin's stuck here. Devin came up to learn about self-learning and what's different and how is it different and all that. Let me try to find something. I don't know what's going to happen when I shrink this screen. So let me stop this share. Let me find something on my computer to bring up and share it. There's Zoom stuff here I don't want to close because it might hang us up. Self-learning traction control. I'm looking for a certain file here that you'll love the name of. Anticipation. Okay, this file's been slightly broken. I'll forewarn you, but it still shows what's going on. How did this file get broken? Yep. All right. Let me set the stage. Back to screen sharing. Hang on. I've lost all my Zoom stuff.
You are
It's
still
not me
here.
this time, I promise, Kenny Howard.
I think it's
Christ.
in Google.
I've screwed
Where's
up.
my Zoom interface?
Like
boy.
Alt Tab might bring it back up.
I'm having brain lock here. I've never Zoomed before. I need my daughter down here.
Your
looking
kid
for the
set it
screen
up
that
last
lets me-
time when he had the program all jamming. It was good.
I'm looking for the screen that lets me share my screen. This looks like it, but it's just Scott. Maybe I got
You might have to hover
Here
over
we
the
go.
bottom.
I gotta blow that up full screen. Okay. This is the pass.
I guess I have to put those settings in for every meeting. That's crazy.
Okay.
Right on.
So what's slightly broken when I'm over here putting asterisks on is this timing curve has gotten broken somehow. It used to run along here. Okay. But regardless of that, I'm not going to explain this now without that curve being there. Okay. This car is over accelerating and slowly ripping the tire off. There was a profile here, right there, right? So the profiler saw it go over the plot and pulled timing out. See these nice linear steps, progressive with the timing. As the drive shaft goes up, the timing goes down.
Yep.
And then as the drive shaft comes down, the timing goes up and then back down.
Tries again, cycles
up.
again. Yep. And grabs.
Now see this? The
Shift.
sudden drop, that's a self-learning correction. It saw a problem. It immediately went to the 2 or 3 degrees it was allowed to take out. So where this is really cool is here you are on your profile. you've gotten under your profile, you shift gears and rip the tire off. It didn't bother waiting. It didn't bother waiting for it to get to the profile to pull timing. It saw the rate of change changing too quickly. The drive shaft's been doing this. Now
And it
it's
said,
doing
hell with the
this.
profile. This is about to blow the tires off. We need to like do something now.
It didn't even know the profile's there, right?
Yeah.
It just saw this sudden spike happening, pulled timing out, starts putting it back in, sees it again here. See, it spikes up again, pulls the timing back out. This is the ramp in limit. So as it's now happy, it's easing that timing back in on a number you can set in the profiler software. So now we're going along here. We have a combination of profiler corrections and self-learning interventions. Where you see it go square wave down, that was self-learning saying, hey, there's a problem. There's a problem. There's a problem. Here where it's holding it out jaggedly, that's where it's right on the profile line, right here. Okay. You get out here, they had no idea. There's a long story behind this. You'll love the name of the file. That's the name of the track, because it was apparently 102 degrees at 9:30 at night. All these are self-learning. We're nowhere near a profile. Okay. It's trying to get away. It's trying to rip the tire off. It had a bad shift. It's spinning. It's all over the racetrack. No prep racing. Big pro charger, a lot of power. Biggest ovaries and no prep. I'll give you that clue. Biggest ovaries and no prep. So this thing's been a real handful. And now we don't know where the profile needs to be, so it just goes up off the screen. So here we're running along. This is no profiler. Might as well not even be there. These are all self-learning corrections. It sees this over acceleration right here start. And right here, it saw it start. It pulled timing and held it out. Starts putting it back in. Starts putting it in. Okay, goes along. It sees this. It learns this is normal. It sees this spike right here. It pulls timing. It's a double hump spike. It pulls timing twice. It does it again here. It does it again here. Now, frankly, this was the first time self-learning had ever been used on a drag car in a new profiler. This is the new version of self-learning. And it worked really well. They felt like it saved this run because every run before this, it was over right here. It got squirrely, couldn't save the car. We looked at the data and said it's a little too aggressive. We were pulling, I think, 3 degrees. And you get this little rhythm here, this spike, dead, spike, dead, spike, dead. It was a little harsh. It was kind of making the car a little herky-jerky. Now, the downfall of self-learning, why didn't it come on back here? It didn't do anything dramatic. It did come on right here because it shot straight up. But right here, this looks normal. This is no different than Frankie Taylor making a regular pass. This rate of change. That's the downfall to self-learning by itself. We're getting ready to do some stuff to help with that, but I can't divulge it yet, but stay tuned. Probably another free upgrade. But you will have to add a front wheel speed sensor. I'll throw that out there. So the downfall of self-learning is it didn't see a problem here because it's smooth. It's just too fast. This car isn't supposed to have that much wheel speed. That was the profile we were shooting for. And it tried to peel them off, and luckily profiler saved it. Profiler saved it. It's riding the profile. It's below the profile. It shifts. Self-learning made a preemptive strike. It didn't wait to get spinning this hard before profiler tried to catch it. So that 1-2 shift wasn't near as violent as it could have been, spinning the tires. Then we rode along pretty good on our profile. And then next shift, bumping the track, everything comes at the wrong time. This ugliness right here is because she's actually having to hold the car in gear physically. It won't stay in gear. And she's racing Megalodon. And like I say, one of the baddest drivers in no prep and the biggest ovaries I've ever worked with. Because when I told her this existed, but it had never been run, fuck it, put it in my car. Put it in my car. I need it. So She ran it against Megalodon the first time it was ever out and won. So anyway, at least I think she won. So that's self-learning.
Not bad. Good explanation. Excellent.
So
guys, any other questions for him tonight?
I'm reading.
Bueller?
I'm reading.
Did we miss any? There's a bunch of there's definitely a ton of discussion.
Sounds like the profiler eventually becomes Skynet.
It's headed that way.
well, that's funny. I've had odd conversations with people. Ian Talker. Y'all know who Ian Talker is?
Yes.
Ian lost a leg.
Photographer.
Should have lost his life. Lost a leg. Lost a big chunk of his other calf. Been friends with Ian for a long time. He's pretty candid with me. And he even said he doesn't like the idea of the car pulling the chutes at 650 feet. What's the driver supposed to do? And I said, what about 665 feet? That's fine. For safety reasons, that's fine. But I was surprised that the number of people that do feel like it's a little too autonomous and what's the driver supposed to do? This is where Amanda Hoover chimes in. Amanda, if you're listening, you need to start typing.
Amanda's a good buddy of ours.
That part of being a driver is operating the whole car. I fly RC helicopters. It's extremely hard. I got out of it for several years. I come back into it here last year or two. It's so much easier because of these bullshit electronics that are flying the helicopter for you. I can take my fingers off the sticks. It sits there and fucking hovers. This took me a year to learn, how to hover. Now they just hover themselves. But on the other side of that, I just now push myself further and do shit I couldn't do before, right? Well, the good pilots, they're doing shit I can't dream of doing. I got buddies of mine. It's just like, I have no idea how that's even possible. My 54-year-old thumbs don't move that fast. Ain't going to move that fast. If they could, my eyes can't move that fast. I can't see it well enough. And I just don't have the natural talent. So I'm not going to be one of those guys. But with the race car stuff, it does get to, I'm all for the driver doing his job. The driver needs to know how to shut the car down in bad situations. The driver needs to think about those bad situations. What if I'm on fire? What if my hands are burning? Can I still turn the ignition off and hit the chutes when my gloves are melting? Or my dumb ass doesn't have gloves because I'm only practicing. I'm only testing, but in a bad situation, let's not put spectators, track workers, the guy in the other lane at risk. If you've already seen 2G of side load or 10G of body roll or 30 degrees of yaw angle or 670 feet, shut it down. Maybe I'm having a stroke, So there's a nice middle ground somewhere that we can all get on the same page with. And the technology's there, in some regards we're silly not to use it. Again, without it becoming, on a RC 8-scale RC speed car, asphalt speed car like these, it's called a Traxxas X01. They do like 100 out of the box.
Yeah.
They have gyro assisted steering. That's kind of crappy. Part of this is it's hard to drive one of these things at 120 miles an hour. An 8-scale car. It's hard to do that. And it's supposed to be hard. So on the other hand, how am I supposed to learn if I can never do it, but without crashing and getting out of the hobby? So there's a middle ground there somewhere that we'll find.
Someone's asking, any chance of talking about various uses of the 004, 005 dual output sensors, maybe outside of the box, outside of the standard?
Let me grab one.
You're making your own Hall sensors, aren't you?
I'm crippled.
He's crippled.
Yeah.
Hold on. Everybody take a pee break. Shannon's tearing it up again tonight, man. I told him, I was like, you don't got to do 2 hours, man, but this guy's he's hardcore.
It just goes so quick when someone has this.
It does. I looked down and it was 9:15. I'm like, holy shit! It's only been. I felt like 20 minutes, but it's doing awesome.
Here, all right. So here, let's just do the whole thing. Hang on a minute. Luckily, I got some here. I don't have to run out to the trailer because I saw a good meme. You know it's cold when you step on a dog turd and roll your ankle. Okay. DAV 1. The DAV 1 is a single output Hall effect sensor that works with our 8 or 32 tooth rings. It detects steel. Okay. So a quick lesson on rings and sensors.
Ferrous metals. Yeah.
Surely to God, there's a ring laying here somewhere. Okay. We have our 32 tooth ring. Okay. There's other variants out there. These are steel. They're solid steel. Okay. For a sensor to pick up a steel trigger, the sensor has to be magnetic. It sticks to the steel. Okay. It'll stick to my filing cabinet. So if it's not a magnetic sensor, if it won't stick to your wrench, it will not work with a steel trigger. If the sensor is not magnetic, the ring has to have magnets in it. Okay. So first you have that. Then we have, well, keep in mind, we make 16 sizes of these now for a reason. Okay. With this high resolution, they run a 30 thou gap. They have to be the right size ring. The problems come in. There's I don't know if it's new or not. I'd never heard of it until last year. Forever, there's been a 2-inch 125. That's the most popular ring on the planet, 2-inch 125. Strange makes a yoke, I think, for an 8.8 that is 2-inch 113, 12 thou smaller. That does not mean get your 2-inch 125 ring, sand the gap down so that it will tighten up enough to go on the yoke and get tight, because now it's 12 thou out of round because you took it and put it around the wrong ID on the shaft. You need a 2-inch 113 ring to work properly. If you do that, you'll get data that progressively gets worse as you go up in RPM because the gap is doing this as the ring rotates. 12 thou, 6 thou. It's a problem. So there's 2-inch 113 rings, and there's a new 2.437, which is 2 and 3 7/16. Having those made now. Okay. Then we move on to sensors. A DAV 1 is a single output. It'll work with your Holley, your Fuel Tech, your Motec, your Hall Tech, your AMS, all that stuff. It'll pick up your ABS tone ring if it's made of steel. They will trigger on magnets. They're not supposed to, but customers do it by mistake all the time and they work fine. So
I'm being asked if it's a blade style center that needs to be clocked or if it works in any direction.
It works in any direction.
Okay.
I have no idea what these people are talking about.
Okay.
I might show you how a sensor's made, but there was a video of a sensor being cut in half. And that blade is not the sensor, that's the circuit board inside the sensor. Okay.
Gotcha.
So that was a little bit misleading as far as I know. I don't know if a sensor made that way. The sensor is located in the very end of this. On ours, our rings are about a 1/4 inch wide. The whole ring is 3/8. The trigger is about a 1/4 inch. It can be hanging off halfway and it's going to pick up fine. It doesn't matter which way it's clocked. By changing the clocking, you're changing the gap, and then you end up causing problems. It says 30 thou gap, put it at 30 thou. Okay. There's a reason I did that. But a DAV 1 is a single output. It's very generic, except embarrassingly, it won't trigger a new Davis product properly. Okay. So for a Davis product, so this is good if you just want to put it on your Holley, your Fuel Tech, your Hall Tech, your Motec, your AMS, and you just want drive shaft speed, a DAV 1, 175 retail. And it's what we call a dumb sensor. It's just a Hall and a analog output circuit. Okay. Then you have the DAV. I'm going to skip to the DAV 3, which I don't have. Hang on. DAV 3. I'm going to skip to a DAV 3. which is a single output smart sensor. This has a circuit board and a microprocessor in the shell. That's why they're not $28 on Amazon. And it puts out a very specific signal that optimizes our self-learning traction control and the high hertz 32.2 stuff in the profiler. You have to run this or a smart sensor with the Davis products. This will also work on everything else. It'll work on a Fuel Tech, Hall Tech, whatever. So Fuel Tech, Hall Tech, Holley, all that, these are somewhat interchangeable unless you have a Davis box on there. Then you'll need the green ones. By the way, the part numbers are on the sensor. The wiring schematic is on the sensor. Okay. Backing up to a DAV2. This is a legacy sensor for the old 8 trigger rings. 2 outputs, one for Davis, one for your very popular Race Pack V300 SD. Okay. Again, 8 triggers, 8 trigger ring. Might work with other stuff. Couldn't tell you. DAV4 is a smart dual output sensor. It can trigger a blue Davis box, see blue, and a yellow Race Pack, because Race Pack's logo was yellow. Okay. So this goes to the Race Pack, this goes to the Davis, and you have dual outputs. It's not the same signal split. It's very specific signal for the Race Pack, and then the one we're looking for. Okay. That's DAV4. The DAV5 is a cool sensor that comes with, so it's very, very similar to a DAV4, but it has this extra wire, this blue wire. Now that blue wire isn't meant to be cut. It's just tucked in there. Okay. The handy dandy sheet will tell you how to connect it. If you connect the blue wire to nothing, it's 32 pulses with a 32 tooth ring. It's 32 pulses out on each output. So you have like the Davis side, the white plug, and then you have like the Race Pack or the Hall Tech or the Fuel Tech or the Motec or the whatever Holley you want that can read 32 pulses. Okay, no connection. If you hook the blue wire to the ground black wire, black like a Race Pack box is how my little brain works. You hook it to ground, the bottom line here shows you that it's now going to put out 1-to-1 on the white output, 32 pulses for Davis, Fuel Tech, Holley, Hall Tech, Motec, whatever else. And it's going to divide it by 4 on the orange output. So it's only going to put 8 pulses out to your old V300, not your V300 SD. The old V300s, the old Pro 1As or something, and maybe other systems out there that can't do more than 8 pulses. If you hook it to red, like your red grid box, it puts out 16 pulses from a 32 pulse wheel to your grid, to your ARC module, because that's all the ARC modules can do, 16, and it puts out 32 to your V300 SD. That connection is not even for Davis. That's for competitors' products. So that's what the blue sensor is for. No connection. It's the same as a DAV4. If you don't hook the blue wire up, it's a DAV4. It can just have options.
That's a pretty cool way to set those up, man. I like that. That's cool.
I need to make a video on that. Can you record that and put it on my website?
It's recorded, brother. We'll be able to send it right to you.
And again, there's information on these little stickers. We don't just put them there for no reason. It actually takes a lot of time to print all those labels and shrink them all on there and do all that. But
real quick, Shannon, they're asking, is it possible for one dual channel sensor to send 2 signals to the Holley with a 32 tooth ring? What part number, or is it easy to split the signal and wire it to 2 inputs?
Yes. Yeah, you could do the DAV4 and have both outputs, both of them going to the Holley.
You can set up one for wheel speed and one to be drive shaft RPM so that you can do things with both.
Why wouldn't you just, these things do just split one, get a DAV1 or a DAV3 and just split the signal. I don't.
I've
It's a
seen
pretty
guys
robust.
actually doing that since they had spare inputs to go. That they were like, all right, I want one that does I want to report rear wheel speed in mile per hour using the drive shaft. So you
Right.
apply the scaling, and then I want to see just drive shaft RPM.
They could take the same output and split it. I think in pretty much any case because it's a pretty robust output. I think it's 40 milliamp.
It can tolerate. It can take 40 milliamps.
You can split it, yeah, unless you're putting a hell of a load pulling it down.
Yeah, I mean that's like a whole processor. I'd be surprised. Yeah,
yeah,
that's a lot of load.
It's coming out of an op amp on all of them, so I think it's 40 milliamp or something like that.
Cool. And your analog outs are op amps, so that they're not sensitive to load. Then
and they're good there, and we're extremely robust about. Hey, I put 12 volts on it, and I triggered it, and it doesn't hurt it. I put, if you get them mishooked up, they're amazingly hard to blow up. Occasionally, for whatever reason, we build them, we test the raw board, we wire them all up, we test the wiring, we test them before they go in the shell to be potted, and then we test them after they're potted, and out of 200 sensors, 1 or 2 of them may not work. And my best guess is they didn't get far enough into the shell. Something's in there, some machine booger or something, and it's not close enough to the tip. So
gotcha.
Occasionally they're tested 5 times before they go in the bags.
Wow.
So that's pretty
outstanding.
It's a little hard. People said my sensor got here and doesn't work. Well, I'm not trying to be an asshole. It probably does.
We didn't sell it to you broken, so figure it out.
And I'm not believing you blew it up because you can hook them up. You can hook power and ground up backwards, doesn't hurt them. You can hook power to the output, doesn't hurt it. You can hook ground to the output, doesn't hurt it. They're pretty hard to blow up, but and we generally find it can be anything from a bad crimp on our end, something, it shit happens sometimes.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. You're going to have a small percentage of that stuff. That's awesome. Yeah. Making your own Hall sensors. That's badass with the multi outputs.
And,
I'm impressed.
Well, it just solves, it became a problem of, I can't sell you a traction control if I can't get a sensor.
Yeah.
And our sensor supplier got extremely unreliable. So
any other questions for, Shannon tonight? Anybody, guys? Mike?
Doesn't look like it. I'm getting a lot of thanks from Jerry.
Yeah, same here. I think Fowler passed out. There he is. He's awake. Like, are you okay? Somebody call him.
I don't think we got anything. You got your new MSD Pro 600. That's a cool piece. We got a lot of that on a lot of pro mods. Worked with MSD on that. Some of y'all know the history of Davis and MSD and may have been surprised when you saw the
2-hour phone call. A wonderful story and learning. Actually,
that, when you see when you see their official release that's got designed to work exclusive with the Holley EFI, MSD power grid, and Davis profiler. So it's a good piece. You can see here's the back of their PRI demonstration, the demo setup they had at PRI. They loaned to me to take to the track and demo and have for R&D and testing at the track. So that's a cool unit. Gives you cool unplug without having to go full EFI.
That's slick. Yep, that's cool.
I don't know what else we got exciting.
Good to see everybody getting along there. All right, cool. Anybody else? Questions? Otherwise, we're going to let this guy go. He has already done way, way more than we would have hoped for. But man, it's
another note
on
your VPS. When you put these nuts on, the little nuts that go on the rubber isolators,
right?
All you need is a socket in your fingers. Don't put a wrench on them.
Don't crank them way down.
You over torque them. Let me try to grab one real quick. I'll just embarrass myself publicly. Here's one of the mounts. Let me take this stuff off so I can get a hold of it. Now they are about as stiff as a gummy bear, right? They're very soft. They're not melting in the sun. They're not dissolving because you got brake clean on them. If you hang your VPS from the windshield bar where Frankie Taylor's has been for 3 years and never failed, these mounts are not going to pull apart. I can fish scale them to about 15 pounds. There's all I can pull.
Yep.
And they're not failing. Okay. If I tighten it up, I guess I can only pull 15 pounds, but I did rip a 4-arm forklift in half the other day. picked up a dresser with a 4-arm forklift and a 2-inch strap ripped in half. May have been dry rotted. When you tighten them up, there's a metal disc that this stud is welded to. If you tighten them up and twist it, that vulcanizing breaks loose. Then over time, hanging from the windshield bar, they come apart. Super glue fixes them like new or better than new. It sticks better than the rubber did. But they're not failing because there's anything wrong with them. You just over tighten them. Because whenever we get someone over tighten them, the same guy's on his third set of mounts. Meanwhile, 974 other people haven't had any problem. So keep that in mind. And you have to use these. You have to use these. Not the ones that came with your MSD, not the ones you had laying at the shop, not the ones you thought would work better, and certainly not, let me just take this off and run drywall screws through these 3 holes to the floor. You at least have to use the 3 rubber feet, the mid plate, and the top mount. You don't have to use this bottom cage mount, but the rest of it you got to use. So there you go.
Outstanding.
Now I got to throw this mount away, and they're $12 a piece.
You probably spent a lot of time figuring out how to mount that thing so that you don't have to do a bunch of software filtering.
There's no software filtering, none of that. These are custom made for us, exclusively for us.
Yeah.
And I think they got a 15-pound pull rating. Well, obviously, if they're 15 pounds a piece, there's 3 of them, they'll hold this. Yeah. So anyway, unless y'all got something else.
I took a ton of notes tonight. That's crazy. I usually don't have to do that.
Shannon,
cool.
we had a couple of questions show up long time ago on the YouTube, and we even had this question come up the last time we touched on this. But can you explain why to folks the idea about using lasers or other things to measure the wheelie of a car keeps coming up? And can you explain to everybody why that's not necessary here?
Well, to me, they serve a different purpose. That's the height of your car. Okay. So Nick Bruder's taught me a ton of shit by how high the car is. Front, rear, different things. I won't divulge his secrets, but I think the lasers still have their place. One big discussion amongst wheelie control, pitch. Well, one, pitch is the same anywhere in the car. If I'm upside down on the windshield, unless my car is flexing like a rubber band, the whole car moves the same amount. Okay. It doesn't change behind the axle, doesn't change middle of the axles, doesn't change on the nose, doesn't change on the roof, doesn't change on the floor. It's a piece of freaking steel. If that thing pitches 15 degrees, it's 15 degrees. My belief is you're more concerned about how high the front is in relation to the rear, which is pitch. So here you are in your little race car, you leave the line in your radial tire and the rear end separates. Well, now you're at negative pitch. Then you get level. Yeah, your car's 5 inches taller, but it's not a wheelie control problem. Well, at this point, your laser ride height thinks you're high. So from there, that's general theory. What do you think's better, right? Y'all go figure that out, okay? If you want pitch, we got you covered. If you want ride height, get some laser ride heights. What I'm hearing at the track is something has changed. What I think has changed is you look at that background and behind you, is that Walter? Who am I talking to? William. You look at that background you've got in your green screen, I guess, and it's a matte looking track. Now we go to the racetrack and you can read the times in the reflection off the track. No problem. I personally think the amount of glue that's going on a radial track seals the surface so smooth and glossy that it's messing with the way the reflection works on the lasers. Because guys are telling me they got all these problems now with their laser not working, cutting out, cutting in. You know, they've always had like their 14-degree range, and you had to play with where you placed it in front of the rear axle to have enough range to get your wheelie control done, balanced out range versus resolution. That's not a problem with pitch. We got hundredths of a degree. I think we output tenths of a degree, but we're measuring hundredths of a degree. So it's a little bit different theory, but there does seem to have been a change in the last couple of years where the lasers have gotten, I don't want to say unreliable, but everybody's complaining that they're cutting in and out and they're not doing their thing. I don't know if it's something to do with the surface. That's my personal theory.
Our own experience was not. I mean, I know of cars that blew over big time with laser sensor setups on them. It's hard to get right, and a lot of times I think inertia is where it's at, or not inertia, but your magnetometer, right, or whatever you're using. That's probably where it's at, only because you get to a point where you have enough inertia built up that the angle of the car, maybe it's better to watch the rate than the actual distance, the rate of, the rate that you're headed up versus the distance you've already covered.
And we just added rate of change actually at Holly's request.
Yeah.
Hey, we got a lot of guys wanting to know rate of change. So, okay, here it is.
Very good.
The other thing is the whole concept of the rear separation. So I'll get guys that'll get their VPS, they get in their car and start playing with the wheelie control, and they got the front end jacked up, where they've got 4 inches under the tires and it's 8 degrees. Well, now factor in 5 degrees of rear separation to that. Now bring the front up 8 degrees, you're in trouble. You got 20 inches of free air under the tires. And
right.
I'm sure you picture yourself doing a 3-foot wheelie when in the video shows you did a 6-inch wheelie. But again, I'm not getting any of this shit. Them guys are crazy. But the Frank Soldridge pass, where he just did this perfect, like 20 inches or so under the tire,
right on the edge the whole way down,
and just stayed in it. I'll take a little credit for that pass, but it's that's a pretty big wheelie. I gotta believe in the car, you ain't seeing nothing but sky. From where they're sitting in the cars with the hood. So, but when you play with your wheelie control in the shop, definitely.
I mean, we have a listener. Nathan is posting right now, a friend of ours, that he can get the lasers to work in the shop good. Could get them to work in the shop, but he couldn't get them to work on the track well.
Let me show you something that crept in here not too long ago that isn't documented yet. Okay. This is going to be tricky. Here's your profiler screen. The background is black, right? If you go to utilities, shop mode, guess what that's for? That's for playing in the shop. The background turns green. Now, when you're playing with your VPS, it does what you expect. When I go to live display and I tilt it up and hold it, it stays tilted. Okay. See that middle bar graph?
Yeah.
I don't know how good it's reflecting. Okay.
No, you can see it.
If I take it out of shop mode, due to the wonders of making a VPS work on a vibrating ass Pro mod, by the way, we recorded 50 G's plus and minus.
Yep.
At like 350 some hertz in Frankie's car. And when we questioned if that was real, we realized 350 hertz is the 2-step RPM. And as I put it to a friend of mine, I just don't think it's doing that much.
No, it's violent.
I've broken
There you
something.
go.
Well, I broke something. Hang on. I'm gonna have to put a disclaimer on this video. I gotta put this. See the big piece of white tape? This
Supposed to
VPS
let you know it's broken.
This VPS is broken.
Right.
I use it for doing
Great.
shit, but the gyros come on and offline. It's got a bad solder joint or something. But if you're not in shop mode, you'll tilt it up. The bar graph will go up and then go back down. And you let it down and it goes negative and back up. That's on purpose. That's track mode. That's dealing with a lot of shit. And when it senses vibrations, all that changes because it's made to work in your race car. But now we had that shop mode so you can get the floor jacks out of the Pro Jacks and you can play. And if you jack it up to 4 degrees and you're trying to calibrate your fuel injection down to the same way, it sits still. It does what you expect it to do. It's using the fusion numbers. But the fusion tends to lose its mind when you shake its brains out or start up a big magneto near. So it's, these were designed for race cars. This isn't an industrial sensor mounted in some foam bolted in your car. So
Got it. Nice.
anyway, I missed that you were saying he was having trouble with the lasers.
Yeah.
And then
Nathan
on the
Kaler was
track-
telling us that he's had issues with the lasers that just didn't seem to work right for him. And he didn't really put a big bunch of detail on it.
It's been speculated that it's vibrating and the reflection's not coming back, which, okay, maybe. But some of these things are mounted right to the side of the chassis. I don't think they're moving much.
Sure.
It seems like the problem is worse either in the daytime or in the dark.
I mean, they
I think
worked
it's
for
got to
us.
do-
The problem was they made a great dialogue of a car blowing over backwards, going way up in the air. And I'm
Because-
sitting at home watching a live stream, and I'm like, well, that didn't work.
Yeah.
Because the car already had enough inertia that got air underneath it, and it was,
It's too late. You
yeah,
got
it was
the
too late.
inertia.
But
And we learned on the turbo stuff, for those making your own wheelie controls, you can take a lot of timing out and that won't necessarily do it. You may have to go to dropping holes.
yeah, and a
You
lot of
know,
engine combos takes it. You can pull a
You
ton
got
of
to do
timing
more
out
than
of it.
just timing. It's just,
Yeah.
it's too little too late. And then you got the whole theory that as you retard timing, the turbo is getting happier. It's getting hotter and happier. So I guess that comes down to how good your boost controller doing its job. Well, it's not a closed loop system. In a lot of cases, it's putting this much on the dome.
Sure.
And if the turbo gets more efficient, it makes more boost than it was making a minute ago. So I say I'm not an engine builder. I'm not a tuner, but
Cool. Anybody
Anyway.
else?
I think that idea of shop mode versus track mode perfectly illustrates the point when you talk about 50G instantaneous acceleration. There's no amplitude, but the delta is there.
well, you'll
And-
love my redneck engineering then. My friend says, "You think that's real?" I said, "I'll give you $100 to go bite Frankie's roll cage and let him go to the two-step. Just lay your front teeth on the roll cage." He said,
Yeah, no thank
"That'll
you.
probably bust your teeth right out, won't it?" I said, "It's gonna it's gonna scramble your brain. It ain't moving but 20 thou, but it's changing direction really fast."
No, I
And what
worked
was-
in stationary engines, and we carried a G meter around that you could put on the engine block, and you get 12, 14, 20 Gs of just the slightest vibration. Not a high amplitude, but frequencies kind of around where you're talking about.
We've actually got a 400 G meter in these for some of the stuff it does, right? It's
Mhm.
not 1 G meter. It's not one simple chip. That's, it was a project, and it was just that my ADD wouldn't let me go of it, wouldn't let me let go of it. So it was, I'm going broke or making this dumb bitch work. One of the two. I'm in too deep now. I'm in deep. So,
That's good. I'm glad to see it working.
and my
out.
buddy Nick, I got to say, my buddy Nick Bruder stuck with me through all of it. We tested a lot of shit. We had some lost runs because of stuff we were trying. And, they've always been great with me. Just, hey, bud,
That's great,
sometimes it
man.
works, sometimes it doesn't.
The Brooders always are putting on a good show too.
Well, I'm usually pretty guaranteed to get plenty of data, and you couldn't
Right.
ask for anybody better to. I mean, he gets done with a run, and at no urging from me, I get an email with the race pack data, the fuel tech data, the profiler data, and the VPS data downloaded, named, categorized, emailed. It's like it's better than being there. So, he's great. And then I've got Frankie Taylor.
All good examples. I think Nathan's example that laser is going to scatter when you're moving it that much at those frequencies. So that kind of begins to explain
It might be what's doing it. That, and I personally think the reflectiveness of the, glue after glue after glue after glue, there's no grain to the pavement left. It's a smooth surface, and I'm no laser engineer, but it may not like that. So
Nathan quote said VPS after the laser thought was shiny prep track versus concrete floor. So I think we're all in violent agreement here.
yeah, so I'm not saying they don't work, because I know Nick gets a ton of data off his ride height sensors, but his car's flat. It's not doing wheelies. So I think it goes to crap when you start getting them up off the track. They're hitting at an angle, they're shaking, the surface is shiny. I just started hearing about it, and these aren't guys that are excited to throw their lasers away and buy $1,000 VPS. They're just telling me the story that we've been trying to do it with lasers, and we keep getting data dropouts and everything else. It's just hadn't been reliable for wheelies. It's great for car behaved, and we got great data about how the car's doing, so anyway.
Yeah, I think it's really a combination of all of the above. And that's why it's so frustrating because you can fix one thing and then they still act intermittently bad.
And I understand they're like $600 a piece now.
Yeah, I haven't looked in a while, but they're expensive. Yeah,
They went up.
I forget what we use in our Formula cars, but they're not cheap.
So it's now I see you're wearing a Hall Tech jacket. Patrick has recently jumped heavily onto the VPS bandwagon, and
Patrick Barnhill.
I think he's got Hall Tech
Barnhill.
working on the can integration. So hopefully that'll be a fairly easy power ground and can wires. I got all the data coming into my Hall Tech.
That's so nice
Yeah,
for the
there's
installer
a-
guys, man, to do whatever they can.
There's a
with
Well,
lot
this.
of really
like-
cool stuff you can do there too.
yeah.
I can't swear to this. I know Chris Delgado had the time slip data coming into his download. I think he had it coming up on the dash at the end of the run. Before Eric's even got turned off, he's got his freaking timesheet on the dash.
Can you retrieve the timesheet over CAN bus? Is there a way to get that
Yeah.
data at the end?
Yeah.
How does
So
that work?
Chris, I know had it. Chris, I know was downloading it because he was going to a window and it was showing it in the download. It had the time slip. And I think he had it coming up on the dash. I can't swear to that though.
Chris was on the YouTube feed earlier. I'm looking to see if he chimes in on that.
You
Delgado.
report
Where
all
you
the
at?
final readouts via CAN, right, Shannon?
Yes. And I
Yeah, I mean,
don't remember.
So it actually
think
broadcasts your incrementals in a set of packets or something like that.
I think, well, I know we put them out at the end. I don't remember if we did or if we decided we could send you the 60 at the 61 foot mark, send you the 330. You could have them incrementally come up on the dash. I don't know if that's controversial or not. I mean, what are you going to do? Pedal because you did a good 60? You know,
and if you're staring at your 60 foot on your dash in a run, you're doing something wrong.
Something's
that's
going
not
on
where you're
here, right.
looking. Yeah.
Right.
I don't see it being a valid thing, but it is kind of cool if your dash is still on and your timesheet comes up as you're coasting down to the turnout. You know, the drivers want that. I don't think the drivers can get that slip quick enough sometimes. So, yeah, it's all coming through CAN. We've got to add some of the triggers to CAN. I think we've already got the yaw rate and stuff in there. It's not in the data sheet yet, but it's actually in the output. So, but yeah, I think the Hall Tech guys are possibly working on the CAN integration. Chris Delgado's got it. And I think Motec is kind of per dealer. I believe Shane has expressed interest. He'll be doing it soon. So that'll make it easier for everybody. Holly, I know, is motivated to work on it, and it's just a time thing. Only do
That's
so much in
interesting.
a day.
That's nice. I'm hoping to see Holly do that, but I mean, you can actually see in their software that they've reserved slots for all of over CAN. Like their
Okay.
CAN config has, it says it's mapped for what is 6 or 9 axes or something to that effect.
I don't know. So
I need to go look at it, but anyway,
they may be. They've been talking about it for a while, and they're
yeah, cool,
they're actively working on it.
cool.
So,
All right. Anybody
All right.
else? Other questions? Have we've gotten them all covered here? I'm trying to.
Scott, can you share this to that VPS tips and tricks group?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
In fact, what you can do is you can share. We can share the YouTube link literally seconds after we're done. It's
Okay.
probably the best thing. So do the
Do that.
YouTube link. It's better than the Facebook video. It's like an event. They've kind of messed it up, but we're simulcasting to YouTube. So you saw we had like 75 people listening on YouTube and like 40 or 50 listening on Facebook.
Okay.
But the YouTube link, it embeds nice in Facebook. It embeds nice in a web page. And it's ready to go like right now. And it's well edited. We have a producer who's actually running the show remotely because he couldn't get over here tonight because we got like a half-inch of glare ice, and we live on the Ozark Mountains, the hilly roads here. It's pretty gnarly. Don't go driving.
Yeah.
But we almost didn't pull it off. But he's actually team viewered into the production workstation there and got her going. Thanks, Jason. Anyway, yeah, so that'll be ready to go. If anybody has any other questions for Shannon, how do they reach you, Shannon? Without pissing you off at 2 a.m.
They can do moretraction.com.
Mhm.
They can do Shannon at moretraction.com.
Okay.
They can call 828-645-1505. Please, if you call, leave a message. I mean, like today,
For the
4
love of
o'clock, the
God,
phone
leave a
just
message,
blew
people.
up. Huh?
Leave a message, people.
Leave a message. For the love of God, leave a message. I may be a day or two getting back to you, but just calling 15 times and hanging up is achieving nothing but pissing me off because I'm already on the phone. That's why I'm not answering the phone. And then every time it rings, it's beeping in and hey, what was that again? I missed that, because you're going over technical shit, So anyway, yeah, please, for the love of God, leave a message. If we send you an online invoice, it has a pay now link. You click pay now. It's there. I swear it's there. It's probably blue. It's big. You click it, and they will help you get rid of your money.
Much anymore.
What's that?
Nothing. No, I should have been on mute. Oops. I said this is why we don't chase racers too much anymore.
I'm a boomer, I guess, but it's like, geez, guys, this ain't that hard.
Come on, folks.
I didn't have any way to pay that. There's a giant pay now at the bottom of the invoice. So anyway, it's
all right. Well, all right, producer Jason, I'm going to send him the thumbs up, which is our cue for him to start bringing in the outro music. Of course, I'm going to look over here and see if it's playing or not. He hasn't seen it yet. Yeah. Okay. It says he saw it. Maybe.
We got, let's see what else we got. We got new video on how to. No, there's a video in the tips and tricks and video on somewhere on the webpage or there's a blog post about calibrating your VPS if you really want to get those time slips pretty much dead on. Nicks are within a few thou every pass. Little tweak into the rollout because we start measuring the time slip when the car moves. The track measures the time slip when you break the beams. So you got to trim the rollout to get a good 60-foot number. And then you can tweak the G meter for the mile an hour and ET.
Gotcha. Well, thanks again tonight for our guest, Shannon Davis. We appreciate it. Thanks, buddy, for sitting in, and we'll continue to send people your way. Man, really great explanations of this stuff, man. We appreciate it.
All right, no problem.
All right, guys.
Thank you, guys.
All right, we'll stick around for a minute. We'll shoot the shit with the rest of the crowd, and then I'll break us out. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I will get the other podcast episodes put up here tonight or tomorrow morning. I apologize if we're about 3 or 4 behind, but I'll get stuff caught up. Anyway, everybody take care and have a good night. Tune in out. Talk to you later.